Take you live now to the Drakensberg in KwaZulu-Natal. Leaders from various sectors gathering in the region to discuss issues affecting the country. They're taking part in the Inclusive Growth Forum. It's hosted by the Kgalema Motlanthe Foundation. eNCA business reporter Heidi Giokos is there. Heidi, good morning to you, along with the Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan, who said last night that restoring a struggling Eskom back to its glory days is not going to happen overnight. Let's pick it up with the Minister.
Exactly, Jeremy. So I'm going to get straight into it with the Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister Pravin Gordhan. Thank you so much for your time. Let's start off with some of the comments you made yesterday about how getting Eskom back to its glory days is going to take a very long time. It's going to be a very long road.
I think what we wanted the South African public to understand is that Eskom is a very vital institution both for our economy and for households. In other words, today you can't do without electricity and energy. Secondly, that the state capture process and the corruption that went on during that period has done a huge amount of damage to the institution in terms of its operations, its finances, its governance, its procurement, and all of that has to be rebuilt. But in addition, Eskom carries a huge debt at the moment, and to put it in very simple terms, it doesn't make enough money to cover the costs that it actually incurs. So we've been working hard together with the Eskom board and management to attend to some of these critical areas. Getting governance right, which has largely happened. Secondly, building a new management team that can effectively take us forward. Thirdly, fixing the operations so that we don't have lights going off and no load shedding any longer. And they have done very well for the better part of this year. Fourthly, to get some costs cut from the expenditure side so that the cost and revenue alignment is a little bit better than it is. But what corruption does is that it doesn't just stay at the top. It is like a cancer, it begins to spread. So there are some excellent people in Eskom who we rely on to do the right thing, but there's still remnants of the rogue element within the institution as well. But in addition, we need to become a lot more efficient at Eskom in terms of generating power. And as you know, the President has announced that Eskom will be split into various entities for generation, for transmission, and for distribution. And soon he will announce the special paper that he mentioned, which will indicate the kind of roadmap South Africa will travel and Eskom will travel over the next few years as we accomplish the mission of creating a more stable Eskom, a more financially viable Eskom, and one that the economy can rely on for its energy requirements.
Minister, speaking of an Eskom that's financially viable, the big question is Eskom going to need another bailout? What is being done to deal with the massive debt that Eskom has, given the fact that most of the debt actually comes from local municipalities and Soweto not paying?
No, most of the debt doesn't come from there. So it has a debt of about 450 to 500 billion rands. Municipalities owe just over 20 billion rands, Soweto about 18 billion rands. And in respect of that, we've got to get a payment culture going in South Africa. If you're using electricity, you have to pay for it. And in the next few months, government and others will have to and will launch a campaign to get people to pay for that which they actually use. So that's the first point. The second is, what do we do with the bigger debt? That's a question that the Minister of Finance will answer at the medium-term budget policy statement on the 30th of October. And in terms of the revenue and cost side, that's the job we do every day. So we want coal providers, for example, to ensure that they don't overcharge Eskom. We want the original equipment manufacturers, when they supply parts for turbines or whatever else, also to do it at the best possible cost as well. So the whole procurement system is in the process of being revamped. But I can give you a lecture for 2 hours covering each of these aspects.
Minister, I just want to shift focus and move away from Eskom. Iqbal Survey, chairman of Sekonjalo Investments, has accused you of orchestrating the raid that happened by the Financial Services Conduct Authority just the other day. What are your remarks of this? Because he's basically blaming you and saying that you're the reason why the raid happened.
But two things. My lawyer has made a statement, so that's my point of reference. But the second, in the statement, it is stated very clearly that there's a very interesting habit amongst people who have done something dubious, and that is always point to somebody else. So, you know, Mr. Survey can do what he likes. I'm sure at some stage the facts will be out, and then the public can decide what has happened to whom. But I'm not all that powerful as they make it look like. That authority was created well after my time in the finance ministry, and they've explained themselves what they're actually doing. So let's not deflect from our problems.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Minister. Thank you for your time. So there you have it, Jeremy. Lots on Eskom and how South Africans need to actually get into the habit of paying, given the fact that lots of local municipalities owe billions to Eskom, rather, as well as Soweto. And just a word on the recent raid by the Financial Services Conduct Authority at Sekunjalo Investment, where the Minister is saying that one shouldn't deflect and one should actually deal with the problems, basically saying that, you know, he doesn't have the power or the authority to request such a raid at Sekunjalo Investment.
All right, Heidi Giokos, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Live in the Drakensberg at the Inclusive Growth Forum. It's being hosted by the Kgalema Motlanthe Foundation.